That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Gladiator II, the 29th film, directed by Ridley Scott, which Paramount Pictures is releasing November 14th, 2024.
I know Ridley Scott directed the masterpiece Alien.
Yeah, I think has directed two of the best films ever made, actually, between Alien and Blade Runner.
Oh, He also did Napoleon.
About a year ago, we saw that epic, Napoleon. And you are a big fan of his Prometheus.
I've seen Prometheus many times. I wouldn't say that I'm a big fan.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it has a very storied career in Hollywood, and his children are all directing films now too. He churns them out there just as much as a Woody Allen or a Clint Eastwood does.
What is Gladiator II about? After his home is conquered by the tyrannical emperors who now lead Rome, Lucius is forced to enter the Colosseum and must look to his past to find strength to return the glory of Rome to its people. What is your pull quote?
When in Rome, it seems Ridley Scott feels apt to repeat himself in this somewhat turgid sequel, which plays the same tunes as its predecessor, depending upon the conniving machinations of a devious Denzel Washington to amuse.
Mine. Feeling like a remake of the first film, Gladiator II is not as epic or politically savvy as you'd think a fighting for control of Rome story would be.
No, and it has shades of Hamlet / Lion King.
I hate to use this word, but I was kind of bored watching this movie.
I mean, especially considering the initial reactions when Paramount showed an early screening were out of this world, and I also was quite bored.
If it weren't for Denzel Washington's performance and those two little gay brother emperors, this would be very dry to me. The story. So it's set 16 years after something happened.
Marcus Aurelius has died, the emperor.
And Rome is now run by these two brothers.
Geta and Caracalla, played by Joseph Quinn and Fred Hetchinger.
The one I know from A Quiet Place Day One.
Yep, and he's looking very Robert Downey Jr. circa the Less Than Zero era.
And the other one I know from White Lotus.
And also we reviewed him in Thelma earlier this year.
I liked him too. I liked both of them as these weirdo brothers.
They're caricature, but sure.
So they're, of course, trying to conquer everywhere. So they're trying to conquer this one region.
In North Africa.
Where Paul Mescal lives.
Lucius, Verus.
And he lives there with his lady love.
Played by Yuval Gonin.
And they decide that they want to fight. Like battle Rome. So they take their position. Rome is approaching their land with all these ships, and the general leading the charge is Pedro Pascal.
Marcus Acacius.
These names, Pedro Pascal and Paul Mescal, are going to mess me up. Anyway, so it's Pedro Pascal against basically Paul Mescal. And in the process of this battle, Paul's lady gets killed.
Yes, and they loved with a love that was more than love.
And Paul is captured. And as Rome does with their POWs, they put them in the Colosseum to fight. And we're going to get to these fight scenes, but Paul has a good showing at this fight against some CGI monkeys and catches the eye of Denzel Washington.
Macrinus.
And Denzel Washington's a former slave who's now like the Don King of Rome.
Yes.
And he's always looking for a good fighter. And he sees potential in Paul Mescal and tells him, hey, if you fight for me, I can make you a gladiator and then you could buy your freedom. And Paul's like, I don't care anything about that. I just want to kill Pedro Pascal. And Denzel says, I can do that for you. So then we get like 3 more fight scenes.
Yeah.
And everything leads up to, there's a lot happening because the lady from the last movie,
Lucilla, played by Connie Nielsen.
she's like the empress.
Well, she was Marcus Aurelius' daughter and the mother of Lucius.
And she's not really in control, but she's there. And we find out that 16 years prior, she had sent off her son like to safety because she knew Rome was about to be messed up. And guess who her son is? Paul Mescal, all grown up.
Who she had with Maximus, played by Russell Crowe.
So Paul Mescal is the Prince of Rome. And we need to talk about that. I'm so confused. But She realizes that that's her son because he recites some poem
By Virgil.
that she recognizes that, like, it has to be him.
Well, it's printed in the walls. Yeah.
Also, he was 12 when she sent his ass off. So, I mean, I would think that he recognizes her because thanks to injectables and hair dye, she looks the same as the last movie.
She certainly does, yes.
So that's a thing, that Paul Mescal is the Prince of Rome, but he's enslaved to fight. Then the emperors, the two brothers, the Senate doesn't like them. They want to overthrow their asses.
As the senators want to do, yes.
And the people, like the citizens of Rome, they don't like the emperors either.
No, they like Lucilla more.
And Denzel is hungry for power. So my pull quote about not being very politically savvy, it's very obvious that like he wants to take control of Rome, and he does very easily. Literally, after one fight, Robert Downey Jr. tells Denzel Washington, "Oh, I like you. I feel like I've known you for a long time."
First of all, he goes, "What language do you speak? I speak them all." Even though clearly we're all speaking English in this version of Rome.
So instantly, Denzel Washington has the ear of the emperor, well, the one. The other one, White Lotus, he has like stage 3 syphilis, so he's crazy. But now all of a sudden, Denzel's in like Flynn. He kills Robert Downey Jr., he kills White Lotus, and then he has told Paul Mescal, "Oh, you can fight Pedro Pascal, I'm gonna make that happen." And we can talk about how he makes it happen. But everything culminates in Paul Mescal and Pedro in the arena. And that's when Pedro says, "I know who you are. You're the prince. I love your mother more than anything. We were trying to overthrow these fools. Like, I'm not the enemy.
Basically your stepfather.
And I'm basically your stepfather." So Paul decides not to kill him, but then the emperors kill him. And so now the mom, Connie Nielsen, she's also considered a traitor because there's some gossipy ass housekeeper who spills the beans that
In the Roman style, yes, there was a lot of conniving.
yes, but it's not very sophisticated.
Not as portrayed in this, no.
But so now she's basically being put to death in the Colosseum, and Paul Mescal's told he has to like basically try to save her, but then Denzel Washington kills her. So Denzel kills everyone in the way of him getting to the throne, because I didn't mention that the crazy brother, after Robert Downey Jr. gets killed, he makes Denzel Washington co-counsel with a monkey. So he's basically like the vice president.
Which is very Caligula to do, yes.
So Denzel kills the two brothers. He kills Connie Nielsen. So now basically he would be the next in line.
According to him, yeah.
But then I don't understand how this happened either. But I understand that Paul Mescal, he's made friends with like the town doctor.
Ravi, played by Alexander Kareem.
Who used to be a gladiator.
Yes.
And I guess went to medical school. But
well, he even asked him, "Where'd you learn your trade, man?"
He doesn't answer. But they become fast friends, and Paul Mescal says, "Take my ring back to where I live."
Well, back to Marcus Acacius' army is kind of laying in wait for the coup that he's trying to stage against the brothers.
Is that Russell Crowe's army?
It's Marcus Acacius' army.
Who's that?
Pedro Pascal.
Oh, whatever. Anyway, so now Paul Mescal gets that army to come battle Rome's army, which is now Denzel's army. And so the final moment is these two armies that are similar size pull up to like a gate.
The gate outside of Rome. Mm-hmm.
Somehow Paul Mescal and Denzel are both out there at the same time.
Even though we saw them having an altercation, Denzel's on horseback, and somehow by the time he gets there, Paul is already with that army on the other side.
Yeah, don't know how that happened. But then they have a fight. Paul kills Denzel.
Which is a good scene.
Then he tells everyone, "I'm now in charge of Rome and I want peace, so we're not going to fight anymore." And everyone yells, "Yay." And then the final scene is Paul Mescal walks back into the Colosseum, picks up some gravel and says, "Speak to me, Father."
Like Daddy used to do. Mm-hmm.
And the film just ends.
Well, the film ends with that shot from the first Gladiator with Russell Crowe touching the wheat.
You swear I watched Gladiator?
You did. You were super cranky throughout it and were not impressed.
I don't remember a single thing about it. The only reason my pull quote says that it feels like a remake is because you explained to me what it was, and it sounds like this movie.
Well, yeah, again, you have Russell Crowe and Oliver Reed in kind of the exact same mentor/slave relationship as Denzel and Paul Mescal in this.
I was expecting something epic like Ben-Hur or... I mean, this movie feels kind of small, except for the opening scene where we see all the ships, like the CGI ships pull up to this city in North Africa. Aside from that, everything takes place in the Colosseum.
It feels this is not Rome open city, this is Rome closed city.
And the way it's shot, it just feels very, like, tight.
It's very tight, and then I feel like we waste a lot of time when the political maneuverings are the most interesting. We even have Derek Jacobi as a member of the Senate, who really has nothing to do, but clearly that's a shout out to I, Claudius, because Jacobi played Claudius, who was an emperor before Marcus Aurelius, and that series is said to have inspired everything from The Sopranos to House of Cards, with all of the wheelings and dealings and the bullshit that they were all doing back then.
Is the person you're talking about the one who was canoodling with Denzel?
Not the main one. Jacobi has even less to do. We do see him get his neck sliced, though, in the end.
Okay. So I don't think the film feels very grand. Then if you're in it for the action sequences, I thought, I mean, that first, the opening by, taking the city by sea, and then, it looked like a big CGI sort of spectacle. Then that first battle in the Colosseum with those hairless monkeys.
Well, the baboons. At first I got excited. I'm like, are these going to be the creepiest baboons since the original The Omen? No.
It looks so... I mean, I thought it looked pretty... I mean, obviously it's fake, but I didn't think the CGI was that great. And then when Paul Mescal is fighting one of them and like bites it and knocks his teeth out.
Well, they're doing a thing where we see the primate is... responding to the rage of Paul Mescal, which was really silly to me.
Then there's another moment where, I don't know where there's a separate Colosseum that I guess is by the ocean, because now we have a Colosseum that's filled with water and sharks and two boats. And that shit, you know what it reminded me of? You probably never saw this, but on the Las Vegas Strip, there was a hotel casino called Treasure Island, and they had a pirate show. Okay. Every night from like sundown. And it reminded me of that. Like, it just looks so ridiculous. You have these sharks. It was very deep blue sea to me.
You mean empty spectacle?
And then, like, imagine a football field filled with water, and then you have these two big boats, and the way it's shot, it looks like they have nowhere to go.
Well, I mean, historians have already been clocking the inaccuracies, but Ridley Scott, who shoots everything in English, even though most of his films are set in places where that is not the native language, I don't think...
those details are important.
I don't think he really cares about that.
Okay, so the action I wasn't that impressed with. Then it's like, this is a story about... This movie should have been about Denzel Washington trying to overthrow these two creepy-ass brothers. Because they were the three best characters to me. Because as it is, it doesn't feel that savvy. Like, there is no real backstabbing. It's like this gossipy-ass housekeeper tells some guy who I guess Denzel's friends with, and then Denzel kind of blackmails him. But there's no backstory as to why. And then he just kills both emperors and the empress, I guess off the strength that no one likes them.
Yeah, some of that. Again, you could get away with a lot back then. Like some of the shenanigans these families played on each other, it really was scandalous and shocking.
Okay, I'm so confused that if Paul Mescal knew he was the Prince of Rome, why didn't... And then his mother is popular. The people of Rome like her. So that means that he would have known that she exists. Why wouldn't he have sent word to her like, "Hey, Mom, I'm alive," and like...
I think she has some exchange. Everything between Connie Nielsen and Pedro Pascal I found utterly boring and lifeless. But I think that she's excited that her son has returned, but there's nothing in the script, which was written by Peter Craig, son of Sally Field and David Scarpa, about... Did she not send envoys out to find him later? Ever?
That's my question.
I'm very unclear about what she did to get him back, if anything.
Okay. Well, after the screening, we heard these two ladies saying that Pedro Pascal gave them everything they needed. I like Pedro Pascal a lot. I don't think he had much to do in this movie.
He does not. And I would actually say Paul Mescal doesn't either, especially because Denzel says on more than one occasion, like, you're driven by a rage. He has some line about how you're so full of rage, it's like you drank it out of a whore's teat. You remember that?
Yeah. But then Paul Mescal, it just seems pretty flat. I think he was okay, but I didn't see the rage. He seems kind of bored.
He seems
like he doesn't want to be there. And
well, I mean, I wouldn't want to be a gladiatorial slave either, but he's like, yeah, I'm fine doing this. Just let me get a crack at this Marcus Acacius. Like, okay, even that, like his drive for vengeance about his lady love. And I really disliked how they tried to use magical realism to show about this love that he had.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's my first note. That moment, because after
she gets struck down by an
you
arrow,
said it was like The Crow.
the new one, yeah,
It looks like that.
with Bill Skarsgård.
And I was just, I wanted Enigma to be part of the soundtrack. It just felt like Enigma would have been perfect for this movie.
It's like a nice shot from a music video, but does not fit here.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's beautifully shot. Those moments where, because it's like black and white, and he sees death coming
To take her.
It was very The Seventh Seal.
But I don't know that she even had the Seventh Seal. I don't know that this does not deserve a Bergman reference, but I don't know that is justified, considering this lady does she even get a line of dialogue? I don't remember anything about her.
I really don't have any notes. But my next note is So if you like Paul Mescal, he's a nice looking guy. You see him without a shirt on sometimes. So if that's good enough, then you'll like him. But I thought he seemed really petite.
Yeah.
Because we see him with a lot of other really handsome men. I think it's funny that this movie feels kind of unintentionally gay between Denzel Washington's portrayal, which I found very kind of over the top.
He's very flamboyant.
And then the one guy who he's sort of blackmailing, he seemed a little effete. And then, of course, the two brothers. But then you have all these like gladiators, and they're all cooped up in these tight quarters, and they're all very attractive. But then they give them all bad teeth.
Except for Paul.
So I think that's funny. Like, they have to make him look the best. But speaking of that, there's mention of Paul's character smelling bad, like 3 times, which seems odd, because back then I'm assuming people didn't have access to smell goods and daily showers. But what's ironic about the mention of him smelling bad 3 times is that we see him bathe, or we're told he bathed at least twice. That's really weird writing to me.
Yeah, it's weird focus on certain details, or maybe he's just the Evie Oddly of this narrative. But I don't know how I think that we are supposed to read the twin brothers as coded gay. Like, I think there's really just no other way. I can't see them as anything else, really. And Scott is not, like he's pulled that before. Exodus, Gods and Kings, the Ben Mendelsohn character, although that's much more blatant about him being a homosexual. But Ridley Scott clearly likes this epic energy. It's just that I don't know that, to me, it's been a really long time since he's really brought that. You know, like, if you compare this to 1492 Conquest of Paradise or Exodus, sure, it's better than that. I think this is better than Napoleon. And maybe it's just because I'm not like a huge fan of the original Gladiator, which won Best Picture and Best Actor for Mr. Crow. But you have to remember, Scott had a very difficult time in the 90s. Like, I think Gladiator came after massive disappointments like White Squall and G.I. Jane. And so this kind of really revitalized his career that I think he's still kind of basking in the glow of. So, 24 years later, at such heights, and to have such access to so many resources, it just feels really strange that this is it. I don't know.
I don't have much else to say about this movie.
Well, I strongly dislike the score by Harry Gregson Williams, especially towards the beginning, where it's really feeding us into the details about this love the death of which causes Paul Mescal. And again, to go back to your point of like, did he never want to go back? Is there what exactly stopped him from going back, besides his friendship with this man that you thought was Tony Todd? Like he has this new life here and he's turned his back on Rome, but did he never want to go back? I feel like we learned so little about intriguing characters like the brother emperors, like Denzel Washington's Macrinus, and I guess to its credit, it left me wanting more in that arena. But it looks fine. It was shot by John Matheson, who did the original Gladiator. Another Jacoby reference. He shot Love is the Devil, which I think is a far superior film. But I don't know. I just think that we can expect more.
Maybe that's the main thing that was missing for me, besides it just not being that savvy, was like the rage that I would think that the Paul Mescal character would have. It just wasn't there.
There's no passion.
So he did all this because his wife died in battle? Like, aren't they soldiers? That's what happens. Like,
there's no passion. Part of Pedro Pascal, his character's problem is those brothers, he's come back from a victory. They want to send him right out again to India and to expand the empire, and he's very much against that.
It also doesn't, he takes it very personally. Like, I want to kill Pedro Pascal. Mm-hmm. But I didn't get the sense that Pedro Pascal was trying to kill his lady.
She was just a
byproduct of this war. But he's making it seem like I have this lifelong vendetta. He made it seem like you killed my dad. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
But that's not what happened.
And again, that's where the Hamlet reference comes from, right? But mother has married the man that killed father. But
did Pedro Pascal kill the girlfriend or the wife? That's his wife.
He sent a direction to shoot her. Like we see that.
But I just think that's so weird. Like, he doesn't know who you are. He didn't know that's your wife. Like, why are you making it seem like it was a personal attack?
Right. Like, I think
meanwhile, when your crew killed a bunch of his people.
Right.
I don't know. It just didn't fully work for me, but I think the movie's okay. I'm sure people will not agree and think it's a masterpiece. What would you give Gladiator II?
And they are everyone is fine to have their own opinion. I give it 2.5.
I would give it 2.5 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.